You're listening to the Armchair GM Sports Network. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the first installment of the Niagara Athlete Spotlight right here on the Armchair GM Sports Network, your source for North American sports coverage by sports fans, for sports fans, delivered to you right here from the Niagara region. You can follow the podcast on Twitter at Armchair GM Pod. Like us on Facebook at facebook.com/the Armchair GMs Network. Listen to us live right now on the free Spreaker app or Spreaker.com by searching the Armchair GMs. As well, we are on Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, CastBox, and Stitcher Radio. So wherever's most convenient for you to listen to us, we're on all those different platforms for you. And as always, I'm one of your hosts of the Niagara Athlete Spotlight, Cappy. You can follow me on Twitter at Capoots13 with a Canadian Z. And on today's episode, I am very pleased and honored to be joined by my good friend, longtime friend, Niagara Falls native, St. Paul Patriot, Western Mustangs standout, and now wide receiver for the CFL's Edmonton Eskimos, Harry McMaster, and maybe even more so than that, former Honey Badgers softball center fielder and former leadoff hitter as well.
Thanks for having me, Caputo.
Yes, Harry, thank you very much for being the first guest on our first ever episode of the Niagara Athlete Spotlight, where we will be showcasing and spotlighting athletes from the Niagara region who have gone on to achieve high levels of success in their respective sports. Harry, being a Niagara Falls native, couldn't think of anybody better to have on the first episode than Harry, so it's going to be a great conversation today. We're going to go into Harry, a football life, Harry McMaster style, as the NFL Network would do in their episode. So we're going to go through everything, starting with Harry's journey in football, all the way leading up to now, and we're also going to talk a little bit about his beloved New York Football Giants as well during this episode. So it's going to be a fun one for you guys, and I got a lot of questions, a lot of hard-hitting questions here for Harry. So hopefully you guys sit back and enjoy this episode. Harry, you ready to get into this?
Yes, sir. Let's do it.
All right. So, Harry, first question I got for you is, again, I might know some of these questions, but for all of our viewers out there in the Niagara region who don't know Harry personally, take me back to your first football memory or something that you remember which made you fall in love with the game of football.
My first football memory of real football was grade 4, my first year. I was playing running back at the time, and the first touchdown I scored was just like a sweep right. It was like a classic play, just like pitch right, and I broke it outside and took it to the house like 40 yards. That's the first play I can remember in my career. So that kind of lit a spark, and that feeling of gaining yards, scoring touchdowns, and making people miss.
Yeah, I actually saw that on your Instagram page that you were originally a running back. So that was kind of my next one of my other questions was wide receiver always your first position of choice, or were you where else would you have liked to play or learn how to play if you weren't playing wide receiver? Was running back another option that you would have pursued?
Yeah, so I started at running back. I was just like the fastest kid around basically at the time. So it's a natural fit, just give him the ball any way we can and just let him run. But kids started growing before I did. So eventually they got bigger than me and faster than me, and I couldn't really hang in the box. So they eventually kicked me out to wide receiver, which was good. But I also played defense a lot. I played some safety and some corner. So I actually really liked playing defense. I played defense in high school too. So that's a position I would have liked to play at higher level too. Just because it's pretty fun for me. I don't take it too seriously. I wouldn't have been as good, obviously, because receiver is the natural fit. But I like just hanging back and at free safety and just reading the quarterback and making plays that way. Getting your own money, as they'd say.
Getting your own money. I like that. And I want to give our first shout out to Carmine's Pizzeria Italiano, serving Italian-style pizzas made with the freshest, top-quality ingredients. 2019 Reader's Choice Diamond Awards for Best Pizza and Wings in Niagara Falls. 905-374-4400. Way too good. Carmine's Pizzeria Italiano. And Harry, with our next question here, I also want to know, were there any other sports that you're really interested in pursuing? Your number one option growing up? I assume that your father and your brother had a lot of influence with that. Shoutouts to another co-host of our Straight to the Extra Point football podcast, Miklos, who I'm sure had some influence in your football career as well.
Yeah, so I started out playing soccer. That was the first sport I played. I played it from a very young age, before I can even remember. And I was pretty good at soccer as well. I played travel my last year that I played travel soccer, and then kind of just switched to football because my brother was doing it, my dad loves it. I always liked watching football, so once I kind of got old enough to play, I just kind of switched into it, but it was kind of battle. I wanted to do both. My parents said no, you got to pick one. Like, it's kind of crazy to do both sports all summer long, so ended up making that switch. But I still really like soccer. I think I would have been a pretty good soccer player, honestly, at this point, because I kind of have the body for it. 6'2", thin, and kind of can run forever. So I kind of, if I could do it over again, I'd say I'd probably pick another sport just because I'm interested in other sports. I played hockey as a kid too, just house league, so I wasn't as good at that, but I still play pickup hockey sometimes too, and I love that.
Yeah, I was going to say, as a Canadian kid, was there any, desire to go and play, Canada's favorite sport, hockey, or was football just always your calling in that sense?
Yeah, we both played house league in the winter, me and my brother, but we never really got into it enough to be like, okay, let's play travel, let's play, whatever the higher levels to pursue that further on. We never kind of really got serious into it like that.
Okay, fair enough. And another question here, and this one's sponsored by Simply Fit Health Club, 24-hour access, 7 days a week, $9.99 bi-weekly, 289-296-9535. No excuses, only results, 6595 Drummond Road. Simply Fit Health Club is what made you choose the New York Football Giants as your favorite football team, Harry?
It's kind of funny because I didn't realize it at the time, but I jumped on the Giants bandwagon at the time. We used to play Tecmo Bowl football on our NES, our Nintendo.
Oh boy.
And they were the best team in the game. It was 1991, I think, and that was the year the Giants won the Super Bowl. So they're the best team in the game, and so I just liked playing as them because they were really good. I didn't know it at the time that they were the team that won the Super Bowl that year, so I kind of took it from there. And they had nice black and blue uniforms too, which I really liked. So
okay then. So was there any sort of pressure to go with your dad's Miami Dolphins or your brother's Oakland Raiders in that sense?
No, never. No one ever told me who I should like. I just kind of played as them on Tecmo, and then it grew from there.
That's good. I mean, I didn't go with my dad's football team either, but I don't know if what's worse, the Buffalo Bills, the Atlanta Falcons at this point. So that's a discussion for another day. We're here to talk about you. But regardless, our next question is, during your time at St. Paul High School, shout-outs to the great Mr. O, Coach O, was wide receiver, or actually I already kind of just described that question, but when did your time at St. Paul High and your first step in football there prepare you and teach you for when you eventually got to Western and into OUA football, and just like how a team is supposed to work and function together? How did that time in high school football kind of help you within your football career?
Yeah, I give a lot of credit to our coaching staff because they really took football very seriously, and obviously we're very knowledgeable. Well, not obviously, but we're very knowledgeable about the sport, and we're always working to improve ways to teach us to be better at football. So that really gave me the kind of mindset of, okay, this is serious. We're not just, we are having fun, but we're not just out here for fun. We're trying to be great. We're trying to get better at this, and we're always trying to learn new ways to get better at it. So I think it really started there with Coach O and the other Coach O, as well as the other younger coaches we had helping out, some university guys. They really instilled that in me to take it seriously and do everything you can to get better at the sport.
Great. And next question is brought to you by Marcel Dion Inc., wall-to-wall NFL, MLB, and NHL licensed products, specializing in autographed sports memorabilia, owned and operated by NHL legend Marcel Dion, 905-357-7678. And then obviously, past your high school career there, did you enjoy the recruitment process and talking to different schools within the OUA, or did you just want to get on with what you could control and focus on how you could have the best opportunity possible to take your game to the next level and be in a winning situation in football? So how was that whole recruitment process after you finished high school like for you, and did you enjoy it?
It got to be stressful at the end when it came down to decision time. But I did enjoy it. It was really cool. There's not a lot of opportunities, especially in sports, but in life in general, where, very important people who get paid good money, are kind of relying on you and trying to convince you to be a part of their, either their workspace or in this case, their team. So that was a very different experience, and I didn't really know a lot going in. I didn't have a lot of older players who went through that process and could give me guidance on what it would be like or how you should approach it. So it was very new for me, but it was pretty cool at the same time. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, how many, without getting into all that detail, how many schools did you visit with? And, was it difficult to kind of narrow it down to one, or was your mindset on Western from the beginning just because of how successful and, much of a football powerhouse they usually are?
So I ended up getting talked to, I spoke with maybe 6 schools. I eventually took visits to 4. And so it was a difficult decision. It came down to 2, and really it was kind of a toss up. I remember there was one night I was just in my living room with my parents, standing on a couch or something crazy. And I was like, I don't know where to go. We got to pick one of these 2. And we eventually picked Western. There's a million reasons, a million things to consider going into it. But we eventually picked Western. What was the second part of your question there?
Honestly, I can't remember. Just was there any? I was gonna bring up. Was there any thought? Since your last name is McMaster, were the McMaster Marauders? Was that ever a thought of being a perfect fit with your last name, or were you? That was just kind of a joke question there. So.
No, yeah. Originally going in, I was gonna go there heartbeat. Yeah, let's go. Let's get a whole bunch of gear that has my last name on it. It's gonna be awesome. And they talked to me one practice at St. Paul. They got my phone number, and then that was it. Never heard from them again. So I was like, okay, I'm not going there then. I'm taking visits to these other 4 schools, and yeah, took it from there.
Yeah.
So it was a great idea at the beginning, though.
Yeah, I'm sure it was very tempting. But shout outs to our buddy Adam Dixon, who went on to have success as a McMaster Marauder as well. But then you end up choosing Western. It's a school that you narrowed it down to, and standing up on your couch deciding to choose there. And What was it like when you first got into the OUA football training camp and you're there with Western, your first time walking in the facility, in the building, as a member of the team? Just what was that experience like? Did you feel overwhelmed, or did you feel like this is my home, this is my calling, and this is where I feel most comfortable, is in a football facility and on the football field?
It was definitely overwhelming at first. It's a huge difference. As much as your high school may take football seriously, I think our school did a really good job of that. It's so different. No matter how much you try to emulate what university does, there's just no way to replicate it. Especially training camp. You don't really have high school training camps at all. So, and back then there was no limit on how many players you could have in training camp. Mm-hmm. Since then they cut it down. So we showed up there, and in practice there was, we had maybe 120 guys in camp, which is like insane. Like there was a million guys on this team, felt like, and you're new there. You don't really know how things go at all. It's very overwhelming. Especially the preparation too, in high school, you learn plays and you know them pretty much your entire career. Even when you switch to senior, it might be a little different, but you have all winter, all summer, you have all year to prepare for that. And then now you just show up to this new place day one, and they just throw all this stuff at you. So it is very overwhelming, but it's kind of exciting too, getting to that level and starting to learn football in that way.
How long did it take into your career at Western before you were able to choose your own number?
That's a good question. So it's actually number 83 up until fourth year. So they just gave me 83. That was my number. It's just whatever. They told me I'm wearing 83. I was like, cool. And it's a funny story how I switched. My first year dressing in third year, someone who wore 83 before me had actually kept our away jersey, and we were supposed to have these white jerseys for the next 2 years. So someone took theirs, so I didn't have one. So I had to wear 83 from the previous set of jerseys, which was, this guy was huge. It was like a double XL or something. And like you could tell it was an older jersey, and I didn't have my name on the back. And I was like, this is ridiculous. I'm not doing this again for another year. So I switched numbers so I could have all three jerseys.
So they were okay with you switching your jersey?
Yeah, and even then, people already have numbers accounted for. So even then I was limited on what number I could choose. So 19 was one of the options, so I took it.
Is there a reason why you like 19 so much? Or you just decided, hey, go for it?
I wanted to be in the teens. I don't know. I kind of like the teens better than the 80s, but it was really just one of the options I had. So
honestly, I can't remember. What was your football? I mean, was your number for our Honey Badger softball team? What number was that?
I'm
drawing a blank. I used to have to write it down for every game, and I can't even remember what your number was anymore.
Yeah, I don't remember either. Actually,
I think I have to go back. Maybe it was 19. I don't remember. But
I think it was 6.
You're right. It might have been 6. One of our Honey Badger buddies can point it out, but I honestly can't remember what number you wore. But I was wondering if you chose your Western number, to combat your very successful softball career with the Honey Badgers in Niagara Falls softball league here. But probably not.
Well, it's a good comparison to Adam Thielen now, so that's good.
Yeah, I guess so. And I hate going to these next questions. Some of them, I know you don't want to bring some of the stuff up, but firstly, Niagara Employment Help Center, comprehensive employment and job search services, including assessment of skills, interest, and experience, job search strategies, and resume prep. 905-358-0021 to book an appointment with their agency located at 6100 Thorstone Road, Niagara Falls. I hate to bring up 2015 and 2016. I know it was a difficult time. I was at TD Stadium for both of those, being the number one seed both years, losing to Guelph 23-17 in the Yates Cup, and then in 2016, Laurier battling back to win that game 43-40 in that incredible comeback of epic proportions there. And after being able to reflect on that now, what did that loss teach you guys as a team, and how did that adversity help and motivate the team going into the next season, as you knew you guys had the talent and the team to get back there again with a shot at redemption? So Harry, how was that whole experience for you? And I know how difficult and painful it was, and I hate bringing it up again, but I'm trying to bring it up in a positive light to show how you guys were able to come out of that. So what is your memory of that whole scenario with those two losses there in the Yates Cup?
So I think there's two changes that came. We tried to rectify them after the first one, which honestly we came 3/4 away from doing it the second time. But two major changes. One was becoming more of a team overall. Western's a really good school. They do well in recruiting. So when you get a lot of guys who are used to being the best players on their team, type A personalities, alphas, sometimes it doesn't come together in the best way possible. Not to say that, there was anything, toxic or anything about our team, but there was just another level that we could get to. And we tried to do that the next year, and then eventually we did the year after that. Another change was, which kind of ties into it, was it's tough when you go to Western, when you have a lot of you can't even say it's tough, because it's like not even a real problem to have, but it's tough when you have a lot of success at a school and you're known for having a lot of success, to maintain your work ethic and maintain the attitude that you have to earn everything that you're getting, even when sometimes it's really easy. You have to, stay the course and put in the work, because we don't really care if we win, go undefeated in the regular season, win one playoff game. It's the last 3 games that really matter. And so those two changes kind of, we learned the hard way, and we eventually put it all together, thankfully, because it would have been a lot more frustrating now if we didn't. We eventually got to put it together in my 5th year, 2017.
Yeah. That was actually one of my questions, was during your time at Western, that I actually didn't ask you. With such a successful program, how hard was it to remain focused as a team, always be engaged, when during most of your time there they basically were running away with Yates Cups more years than not? So you kind of just summed that up for me. Being able to be focused on those last 3 games was basically what you guys were doing, but you also couldn't look too far in the future, because you couldn't overlook your own opponent, and it's tough when your team has so much success and a program has so much success like Western has, that sometimes it's more difficult to just stay in the now because of what's going on the outside and the expectations that are put on you every single year, is it not?
Yeah, I think that's part of it too. My first 3 years there, we started every year, first day of training camp, hey, what's the goal? Well, it's a Vanier Cup. And then eventually it changed. It was like, okay, we need to win a Yates Cup, because once we do that, then we can win a UTEC and Mitchell, and then we can go play a Vanier. But we're not going to do anything if we don't win this Yates Cup. So that kind of mentality shift was huge for us eventually. People can break down to you for like, hey, our goal is to win week 1 or just win this day, blah, blah, blah. But that was a huge shift for us, from saying, hey, we got to win a Vanier Cup, to, hey, we're going to win Ontario, and then whatever happens after that, we'll take it from there. So that was big. You're right.
Yep. And the Blue Line Diner, Niagara's leading breakfast restaurant, located on 4424 Montrose Road, owned and operated by NHL legend Marcel Dion, serving hearty plates of breakfast, surrounded by pieces of hockey history and memorabilia. 289-296-8785, the Blue Line Diner. And Harry, going off of that, did the 2017 season after those two tough losses feel like you guys were on a mission, as you knew the year before was ripped away from you too early after that huge comeback, and that you wanted to go and achieve the goal and expectations as champions that you were all expecting of yourselves? Was that 2017 season just kind of giving you guys extra fuel after what had previously happened there?
Absolutely, yeah. That loss hurt a lot. And especially because we knew that team was going to go to Laval, and it was not going to be good, just based on the matchup. And so that was disappointing as well to see that happen. We felt we could have done better, obviously, but carrying that all winter, going into the next season too, it was like, okay, we got to stop messing around and we just got to do this thing. And when we finally won that Yates Cup that year, I think that was the best feeling I've had in football. Like, I think that even topped the Vanier. It was like, yes, we finally did this after 2 super long years. We finally got to do that. And then once we did that, we just felt like we were unstoppable after that.
Yeah, I was going to say a perfect 8-0 season, thrashed Guelph in the semis, 66-12, exiled the Demons against Laurier in the same scenario at home in the Yates Cup, 75-32. What was the redemption feeling like as a team to take out both of the teams that had previously ended your seasons the two previous years in the Yates Cup? And did that give you guys extra motivation playing those two teams, or did you treat them like any other opponent you were preparing for and just basically on a mission to prove everybody wrong that you guys could get it done in the big game in the Yates Cup?
Yeah, so that was the big thing too. Of course, like, our routine preparing for every game was the exact same, but when we saw the playoff standings shake out like that, we're like, okay, this has to be destiny, right? Like, there's no way we're playing Guelph and Laurier after losing to those two teams in that order. So yeah, it was kind of like a redemption tour. Even though we played them in the regular season, we didn't really care about that, but it was kind of a redemption tour. We loved it when we saw that. We're like, this is it. This is our time. We're going to do this thing.
Yep. I could only imagine how much of a perfect storm it must have felt for you guys to see that Guelph and Laurier were going to be the two teams you'd have to take out. That must have been, like I said, you probably didn't need any extra motivation, but that was like, okay, guys, this is our chance here. This is our chance to kind of go out on good terms here and put those two losses in the past for sure.
And it was great too, because once you give up a 21-point lead in one quarter, we used to get a lot of flack for running up the score. But once you give up a 21 lead in the fourth quarter to lose a championship game, then, the handcuffs are off. You can do whatever you want. So it felt good. We wanted to leave the starters in for those games, but it felt good to hang 75 in a championship game.
Yeah, and 66 respectively. So you were going to make sure that no 21-point comeback was coming this time from Laurier. So luckily you guys were able to come up with that. And Mick and Angelo's in Niagara Falls is premier sports kitchen and bar, a welcoming bar-like establishment with Italian eats, pizzas, wings, barbecues, sandwiches. 7600 Lundy's Lane, 905-357-6543 to book your table today. It's all about food, friends, and fun. After that, you go through those two wins there. You move on to what must have felt like a cakewalk against Acadia in the UTEC Bowl, 81-3, setting up your battle with powerhouse Laval in the Vanier Cup. Going into that game, how was the team's preparation and what was the team's mindset going into what was essentially the Canadian National Championship game?
Our coaches did a phenomenal job. We had Steve Snyder, who was our offensive coordinator, and he came out of the East. So we had a lot of respect for what he was going to say and what he was going to, present to us when we were preparing for this team. So they did a phenomenal job. And honestly, there was one day of the week where we were concerned. We saw a couple things in our meetings and we're like, hey, these guys might give it to us a little bit in these certain scenarios. So going into that game, we were well prepared, and we did not expect it to be like that. So I'm going to leave it at that.
Yeah, all I'm going to say about an 81-3 game against in the UTEC Bowl against Acadia is I'm sure that's what it sounded like in the stadium at that point. But was that game at home? Was that in Western? I can't remember because I know the Mitchell
No.
Bowl. The Mitchell Bowl was in Western the year after, but
Yeah, that one was in Wolfville, in Nova
Okay.
Scotia. Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, I'm sure there was crickets everywhere. 81-3 for the team in Ontario coming in and whooping their butts. So,
We had some Western fans show up though. We traveled a little bit.
I know the McMaster family travels. I've seen it more than anybody else. I've been there. But before we get to our next question, Dixon Accounting and Tax Services, bookkeeping, accounting, payroll, and tax services to a wide range of businesses and individuals with 30 years of experience. 905-374-1503 or dixonaccounting.com. The game, the next question is, the game almost felt like it was meant to be close in your backyard in southern Ontario, being in Hamilton. A lot of Western fans making the trip for a large portion of your friends and family being able to attend the game, including myself. Did you have any time leading up or even during the game just to think of how special that moment was, with the stars almost aligning perfectly in all aspects leading up with the Laurier and Guelph scenarios? Or was it just another game focused on being focused on the biggest game of your life, obviously?
We definitely thought about that when we saw the location, preseason. We're like, hey, that would be pretty cool. And, that's the goal. So this thing could work out pretty well. But once you're in it, there's so much going on. It's so busy. You're playing, one game at a time. You're traveling to Nova Scotia, and then you're traveling to Hamilton the next week, and all that goes along with that. You really didn't think about it too much. I had a reporter from Niagara Falls talk to me I think it was like the Wednesday before the game or something. So he kind of reminded me, hey, like all this is going to happen. So I think I thought about it a little bit after that on that day. But past that, it was just preparing to win a game. That was it.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard because you want to be able to focus on the stuff outside, but at the same time you have to just focus on the game, and your team needs you to have your 100% thought into it, and you're going into the biggest game of your life, so I'm sure, during that time frame you're just focused on the now and trying to win this football game.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. I always kind of check to see, where my parents are, because they come to all my games, so...
And they're screaming at you, too. That also doesn't help.
Yeah, so at the beginning of the game, I kind of checked in, see where they are, and then after that, it was just football.
Yeah, you saw Coach in the crowd there, for bringing back flashbacks of not stopping at third when you're rounding third to go home in softball. Yeah. When I throw the stop sign up on you and you still go anyway. But you don't have to worry about me. You got bigger things to worry about. And Coach Marshall, I'm sure, he's a lot more intimidating than I am.
Yes,
but,
sir.
Then so we go to the game. You guys take down the powerhouse Laval. 39-17, decisive victory. No doubt that you guys were going to win that game that day. What was going through your mind when you realized, after all those years of hard work, preparation, adversity with this team, that you guys were finally Vanier Cup champions, national champions of Canada, and with all your family and friends there? Did it just add to the emotion and joy you felt at that moment?
It was unreal. Like, you see people after Super Bowls and stuff, so like, I don't know how to describe this, but like, it was actually, indescribable. Like, it was crazy. And obviously, unless you win the championship, you don't finish the season on a win. So that was weird too, to win a game and then say like, okay, your season's over now. It's like, why? Like, why aren't we playing again next week? Like, we just won this game. But yeah, it was a phenomenal moment, and I'm very fortunate to have a Vanier Cup championship just like that, so close to home, with everyone there, you included. I mean, I'll have that picture with, like, I don't know how many people there were, but that huge crowd that just came to see me. So yeah, it's pretty phenomenal.
And all those signs and everything, and your brother surprising you flying home from medical school to be able to be there for that game. It was crazy.
Yeah, that too. Yeah, that was insane.
Yeah, and want to give a quick shout out to Steinos Construction, a Niagara-based high-quality construction company specializing in all aspects of home renovations. Always looking to make the next client's dream a reality. 905-359-8897 or Steinos Construction on Instagram. Fast forward a little bit to the CFL draft, Harry. Did you have a good feeling that a team was going to recognize your talent enough to select you, or were you just thinking of that you were going to go back to Western for your final year and have another shot at back-to-back Vanier Cups?
Preparing for the draft, I got an agent as well, and he kind of told me that, once teams find out that you have another year of eligibility, they're going to want you to take it, most likely. So I kind of knew that going in, this training camp could go amazingly. I could do awesome in the first two preseason games, and in all likelihood, I'm probably going to be going back. So I knew that going in. As far as the draft, it was not a guarantee. Based on the information we had the feeling that I was going to be a later round pick, most likely. So it was a long night, a lot of waiting. And fortunately, I got picked in the 7th round. It worked out. But it was not a guarantee by any stretch.
Yeah, and like you just said, you ended up being selected in the 7th round, 53rd, by the Edmonton Eskimos. Just take me through what that moment and that feeling was for us who have and will never experience what it's like to be drafted in something like that situation. Since it was the last round, were you thinking as the draft went on and it was getting closer to the end, did you have your doubts or you were getting antsy to feel like, or did you feel like your time was coming there?
It's kind of wild because you can't watch it, right? Not the whole draft isn't televised. Only like the first 2 rounds of the first round is. So we needed something to do. I was at home with my parents, and we needed something to do. So we ended up playing video games. So we were playing video games with the tracker up on my laptop. So eventually, we paid attention. Like we were very serious, like looking at every pick in the first 4 rounds or whatever. But eventually, 2 hours later, we needed something to do instead of just staring at the screen, and you're nervous, right? So you want to do something. So, yeah, we were just playing video games, kind of keeping track of the picks. And then I saw who was up with the next pick, and then my phone rang. It came up as an Alberta number, and it's pretty cool. You pick up the phone, and then a voice on the other end is like, hey, I'm head of player personnel at the Edmonton Eskimos. I just want to let you know that we're going to take you with the next pick. And that's pretty insane too. Like to see it happen, when you watch drafts, NBA drafts, NHL, like NFL, all that stuff, to see it happen is like one thing, but to be in it is something else. It's kind of crazy to actually absorb what's going on. There's nothing that can prepare you for that, but it was a great night for sure.
I picture you having the same reaction as Vontae Mack in the movie Draft Day, where he's picked first overall by the Cleveland Browns, and his family he's just kind of like looking around like, is this really happening right now? I can picture like that being your reaction as you're sitting at home with the McMasters playing video games. It just what a perfect story.
Yeah, it's amazing for sure. And that's something, people tell you later, that's something you can always have on your name. Like, okay, now you're Harry McMaster, CFL draft pick, to the Edmonton Eskimos. You can say that forever now. Yep. So that's really cool too.
And give a shout out to some of your teammates as well. I know you were one of 6 Western Mustangs drafted in that draft. What a loaded draft from the Vanier Cup champions in 2017. You had David Mackey, Jean-Gabe Poulin, Jordan Beaulieu, David Brown, and Alex Taylor, and as well yourself. So what did you think of that whole draft class and all you Mustangs going into the CFL almost at the same time?
Yeah, that was awesome because most of us prepared together for the combine. We did a lot of training together, and then we got to go through the whole process of the combine and then getting ready for the draft. So it was awesome that we could all do that together. And, there's some phenomenal players in there, like guys who got picked higher than me. So it was awesome that we could all do that together, and then, that we could all make it. That's pretty awesome. And, now we're in the league, we can keep in contact, we play each other so we can, see each other on the field, talk after the games and stuff. So that's pretty special.
Yeah, just goes to show what a loaded lineup and a special team that 2017 Mustangs team was, and even that for that whole 3 or 4 year stretch or 5-year stretch that you guys had was just a remarkable run. You guys really had some really. It might go down as one of those teams you look back and say like that Western Mustangs, group there for that years that crop of years was a very special roster.
Yeah, and that was kind of the icing on the cake too. All of us in that draft class went through that, the story that we just talked about. And that was kind of the icing on the cake after that season. So it could have ended there, a perfect ending, but very fortunate to get another year in with Western. It was great.
I was going to bring up the next question. You go into Eskimos camp that year. Before I go any further with the question, what was it like? I asked you what it was like to go into the Western facility. What was it like to go into now a pro football facility in the CFL with the Edmonton Eskimos? What was that experience like? And were you more overwhelmed or less overwhelmed than your jump from high school to university football, from your jump from university football to pro football in the CFL?
It's definitely very intimidating. There's a lot of guys there who have played a lot of football and have been making a lot of money playing that football, and are a lot older than me. They have families to support, all that. So that's very different and intimidating. Football-wise, less of a jump from high school to university. In terms of, training camp, the scheduling and how the football actually works, how you practice, all that kind of stuff. That was very familiar to me. I think Western did a good job preparing me for that. So that wasn't as much of a jump, kind of format-wise. Playbook and studying film and meetings and stuff like that, those were very difficult as well. But yeah, not as much of a jump as high school to university.
Okay, that's interesting. Because I would have thought it would be the opposite, but again, I'm only an armchair GM. I'm not a pro athlete myself, so I can only speculate on things. But you go into that season, unfortunately, it's cut short with an unfortunate thumb-hand injury that you were sent back home. How disappointing was that moment for you, and how much added motivation did that give you to get back there next season, to crack the roster and show them your full potential when you were finally back healthy? So how did that whole injury situation, looking back at it now, how did that motivate you going forward and into that last last swan song year with Western?
It was tough for sure. I was really set on, that's how I'm going to finish my Western career. So I'm just going to go to camp. I'm going to stick, and that's how it's going to be. It was disappointing, at the moment too, because I was ready to play most of that preseason game. I played, I think a little bit of the first quarter, then all the second quarter, and I was going to play the whole second half, and it happened right before halftime. So that was disappointing right on the spot too. But it all worked out for the best. I got to go back and go to Western one more time and have some fun. So it was difficult, but it's worked out.
I guess it's the life of a pro athlete, right? You go through your setbacks and injuries. Injuries happen, especially in football, and it's just how you overcome it and come back stronger the next time, right?
Yeah, that's the thing too. That when I had my meeting, I thought I was like actually released, like that was it, So I thought, okay, maybe this is it. Maybe I'm never going to play football again. I wasn't really sure if Western was really an option. How would that even work when it's May, June? Like, I'm gonna have to get back in, blah blah blah. So I really thought that was it for a little bit, but yeah, worked out.
Yep. And Mid-City Motors Niagara, a premium source for pre-owned vehicles, full selection of quality used vehicles from a wide range of makes and models. All types of credit are welcome. 905-371-2277 or visit their location at 4460 Drummond Road, Niagara Falls. Like I mentioned, one more swan song with Western. You go 8-0 once again, dominate through Carleton, Guelph, and Saskatchewan to get your rematch with Laval in the national title game once again for the Vanier Cup, going for back-to-back Vanier Cups. This game was not close to home. It was in Quebec, very cold conditions, and felt like you guys definitely had the away team disadvantage that year. Unfortunately, it doesn't end in storybook fashion for you, as opposed to going out in the previous year. Laval takes that game 34-20. Was it a bittersweet to your OUA career like that, instead of just going out in the previous year as Vanier Cup champions, or were you just proud of what you guys accomplished during your 5 years together as a great team and dominant run through OUA football?
Yeah, when I look back at it now, that one game is not, a big marker of what my career was at Western. It's kind of just an afterthought for what we as a team in 5 years accomplished, and what I accomplished as well personally. So yeah, there was a lot of good that happened in that season, and we were just up against it in that game. And they were motivated. I'm pretty sure they were preparing all season to play us at home. So it was just a tough game for us, tough situation. But yeah, by no means is that going to be a major memory for me at my Western career.
That's good to hear, because it's unfortunate that sometimes the last memory is the one that sticks with you the most, but it's nice that you're able to look past that and look at the Vanier Cup from the year before, and then the situation happened with the injury and you had to leave Eskimos camp, going back for one more year, which you weren't planning on it, but it happened, and I'm sure you still were content with that year that you had in your 5th year with Western there.
Yeah, I'm really proud of, because I'm really proud of what I accomplished in my last year, because going back, everyone kind of knew I was going to be the number one target. I was going to be the guy. But there's a lot of little things that I got better at. There's a lot of things that I had to get better at. And so these are things I focused on while I was there. And even early on in the season, I was pretty proud of that. I was a week out of a cast when we played our first game. And still made it happen those first couple of weeks. But yeah, so I'm really proud of that season and how I progressed in little details. When I could have just rolled up there like, hey, I'm the man. I just came from the CFL, blah, blah, blah. So yeah, I'm extremely proud of that season and what we accomplished as well. We won, 12, 13 games still, and we only lost one. So not a lot of teams have a season like that, ever. So yeah, really proud of that season overall.
No, absolutely. And in those 5 years at Western, first place in all 5 regular seasons, 3 Yates Cup victories, 1 UTEC Bowl, 1 Mitchell Bowl, 2 Vanier Cup appearances, 1 Vanier Cup victory, a record of 48-4, 48 wins to 4 losses. That includes title games. And personally for yourself, 1,984 yards receiving on 111 receptions in 31 games. Incredible university career. Out of those things just mentioned, is there something you're most proud of that sticks out to you, or any goals that you felt like you set and achieved during your 5 years of football there at Western?
I think a major goal was just to be the best football player I could be. And I feel like I did accomplish that. If you watch my film, even from 3rd year, my first year dressing, it's going to look a lot different from my last year at Western. And there's a lot of things that, you can get by at not being good at, or not, striving to be better at, to be a good receiver. And I got better at those things. So that's something I'm very proud of from a personal level, and with the goals I had going in. From a team perspective, we went to 4 Yates Cups in a row, which is insane. And we have the win streak who won 27 in a row in the regular season in Ontario, which is insane too. And I've been in a special position where I have this kind of perspective that my brother went to Waterloo for 4 years, 5 years, and he won 4 games total. And that's how many games I lost in my career dressing at Western. So I don't take it for granted that we won those games, that those games are just gimmies and layups. I feel very fortunate that our team got to have that success.
Yeah, and especially for somebody as competitive and as much of a fire as your brother, I'm sure it was not easy to go to a program like that. And sometimes you kind of just got to look back and be like, say how lucky you were to be at a program like that and be able to play in meaningful games year in and year out. I'm sure that's something that you take pride in, being able to play in so many big games.
Yeah, absolutely. We didn't take for granted that, this is the Ace Cup and it's just another game for us. That's the Ontario Championship. Everyone's trying to get in here who plays in the OUA, and a lot of them never will in their entire career. So every time that game rolled around in the year, we took pride in that, and we took it, I don't know, not for granted.
Yeah.
We understood the magnitude of what we were playing for.
Yeah, and the opportunity for sure. Chip and Charlie's, it's where the locals go. Straightforward hangout offering quality bar-style food, cocktails, live music, and outdoor seating located at 8189 Lundy's Lane. Call 905-371-3428 for reservations and sponsorship inquiries. Shout-outs to our Honey Badgers softball team. Used to be sponsored by Chip and Charlie's too, by the way.
Hey.
But moving on, Harry, now that you're able to crack the Edmonton Eskimos roster, now looking at that year that just passed, was it almost surreal that you were now playing professional football in the CFL, or do you not have much time to focus on it when you're in the now, and maybe you had more time to reflect on it once the season had ended? Just how did it feel to finally achieve that goal of making it into the CFL, making the roster, and being with those guys for the whole season?
It's kind of wild because once the team is selected, the next day you have a day off, and then after that day it's okay, we're preparing for game 1, and so there's no real time to be like, all right, I made this team, I'm a professional athlete, it's official, blah blah blah. It's just, okay, I need to find a place to live now, and tomorrow we're preparing for game 1 against whoever we're playing. So there's not really a lot of time to think about it, and it's just go once you're in it.
Yeah, I guess there's a lot of stuff behind the scenes that you don't see, like like you just said, residency or travel and things like that, and trying to get all that other stuff figured out. That's people sometimes take for granted when they just watch games or see people get moved to new teams and things like that. They have to understand that a lot of stuff goes on behind the scenes and dealing with how that affects their lives in general. So I'm sure it was definitely different for you having to go out to Edmonton after being so close to home for all those years, just a few hours away, being at Western.
Yeah, flying to where you work now or play football, that's a whole different aspect too. So you show up with your 1 or 2 bags, whatever, and then you have to make it from there. So that's different for sure.
I'm sure Edmonton's a little bit colder than good old Niagara Falls, Ontario, isn't it?
Caputo, it's crazy, man. And I know, like, I always thought it was a lame take to be like, hey, how's Alberta, how's Edmonton? And they're like, cold. And it's like, okay, we all know it's cold, like, whatever. But then I went there, and a couple of those games, man, it was a battle to stay warm.
There's another, you're not just battling a team, you're battling to make sure you don't get frostbite.
Yeah, that's right.
J&L Flooring's a Niagara-based specialty flooring and design company taking pride in offering exceptional qualities, customer service for your next wood floor, ceramic kitchen, bathtubs, stairs, backsplashes, and more. They're specialists. You can call them at 905-358-3299 or visit them at 4424 Montrose Road, J&L Flooring. You got into 12 games that year, started in one. Obviously, as a rookie, it was going to be difficult to get playing time in the CFL. How did you prepare yourself mentally and physically, knowing that you had to keep yourself focused at all times, since at any second an injury could happen, or when your number was called that you had to go onto the field and perform at your best?
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough for sure, and that's not something I've been used to throughout my career. At Western, when I didn't play, you don't have to worry about that kind of thing. And I really went from not dressing to starting. So I never really had that middle ground where I was on the bench, waiting to go in, ready to go. So it was different for sure. And, just the whole atmosphere of professional sports is a lot different than when you play in university or high school. So mentally, that's part of it too. It's mentally tough and mentally draining at times. So it was a test for me this year for sure, to go through all that and stay ready and be prepared like I'm the starter. It was difficult mentally. Physically, it's a little easier. You're not out there running 80 routes and you're not getting hit every play. So physically, I was in pretty good shape.
Just trying to stay warm on the sideline, right, in that cold Edmonton air.
Yeah, that's right.
Yep. Spicy Olive Bar and Grill is a casual brick-walled restaurant and bar with Italian meals, frequent live music, and upbeat vibe. Located just off the historic tourist district in Clifton Hill by the Niagara Falls, 5026 Center Street, 905-371-2323 for reservations. What was that first game like for you in Toronto against the Toronto Argonauts? Like being so close to home, a lot of friends and family there, including me, Coach. And although you didn't get much of an opportunity to showcase your talent, how special was that moment now as a pro, as opposed to what it felt like during your university career, to see all those people stick with you, to be there to support you for another huge step and accomplishment in your football life?
Yeah, that was awesome. And honestly, it was kind of a turning point in my career for how I pictured my CFL career. Because I've been in Edmonton, everything felt so separate from how I was playing football before. And I was playing in, stadiums I've never been to before. And it all seemed so different. But once we came back to Toronto, a place I've been to a million times, a stadium that I've been to a few times and have recognized for so long, that was pretty surreal as well. Even just to, go in warm-ups and then stand on the sideline in that stadium with some friends and family there too. That was pretty cool. And it made it seem more real that, okay, now I'm a professional athlete because, I'm at BMO Field in Toronto and here's all these people I know. So that made being a professional athlete more real for me.
And all those people in the stands that weren't your family and friends who were paying, a fair amount of money. They're not just students getting tickets anymore for, a Saturday afternoon game. Like, these are professional games that people pay real money for, and it must feel like a different atmosphere and a different kind of expectation now as a professional athlete as opposed to a university athlete.
Yeah, that's definitely part of it too. In Edmonton, we're fortunate to have a really good fan base, and a lot of fans come to our games. And at the beginning and preseason games, you're kind of, anxious and nervous, and you're focused on what you have to do that you don't really notice it. But eventually, later in the season, I'm kind of used to how this thing goes. I kind of know, what my role is, and not relax as in like not pay attention or not focusing on the game or not know what I have to do, but relax as in not being, nervous or anxious or, all that stuff to actually get in the game. I kind of know how this goes and I'm ready to do it. So here we go. And then you can kind of look around a little bit and notice like, hey, those are my friends and family. I know them. And there's actually a lot of people around here and they're pretty loud, so as the season progressed, I could notice those things a little more.
Was there anything as the season went on that changed with your preparation, or just being a pro athlete? How much different is the preparation once you get to that level?
Absolutely. I look back on where it was at in week one, and I dressed week one. Looking back at how I prepared for that week and how prepared I was to be in that game, I'm like, man, it's kind of crazy that I was on that field dressed and potentially, I was ready to go, potentially getting in that game. Because it is different, something I've never played football like this before or prepared football like this, prepared for football like this before. So, I definitely had to develop my routine every week and how I was going to prepare and what it took for me to be at my best by the end of this week and when we play this game. So I grew a lot and got better at that as the season progressed. So that was a big takeaway from this year.
That's great to hear. And the Ridge Film House is a licensed theater in the heart of beautiful Ridgeway, Ontario, 289-303-8367, or theridgefilmhouse.com for movies and showtimes, a truly unique movie-going experience. Last question about football, Harry, is going into 2020, let's just say the CFL season does start on time without any interruptions due to what's going on with the COVID-19 pandemic right now. What are some goals that you can share with us going forward into another big year for you and the Eskimos, now that you've kind of paid your dues and watched and observed what it's like to be an every down receiver in the CFL and striving to be that yourself going into this season?
Yeah, so I think the goal is the same as when I was in university. The overarching goal is to be the best player I can be at football and kind of getting to a point where I'm very comfortable. And, all of that's kind of obscure and you can't really measure, like what is the best you can be or like how good are you at football if you're comfortable. But it's something I can hold myself accountable to. I know when I'm prepared and I know when I'm at a good point of playing football and I know when I'm comfortable out on the field. So I'm working and striving towards that. A little more specific, I guess, is understanding more of the details of the game. And so pre-snap, I can identify things that I need to know and adjust myself based on that. So overall, it's just being more comfortable out on the field to analyze, make decisions, and eventually, make all the plays I need to make.
Yeah, I guess it's a little bit different than having your money plays and terrapins touch football in the summertime with those types of plays. But we don't have to go into that. But I'm sure it is going to be a special year for you, and again for sports in general, just with this COVID-19 pandemic and some sports being postponed, some being canceled, some being delayed. So do you see if the season starts later or training camp starts later, how are you going to keep yourself mentally and physically prepared for when the season does end up starting with the CFL? How much do you think it's going to affect your preparation, or how much is it going to make you work even harder to be ready, because it's kind of an unknown of when you're going to be back at training camp and things like that. So with the pandemic and everything, how are you going to keep yourself ready to go for when we are able to get through this?
Yeah, the big change will be is my strength coach. He works really hard. Phil Dion is my strength coach. He's a player I played with at Western, former player. But he works hard and he takes his job very seriously in preparing an off-season program for me. So I think the only difference will be that instead of us trying to peak at that point, our scheduled date to start training camp, if it is a little bit off, then that's not going to be ideal for us. But as far as keeping myself accountable, it's not going to change. I'm not even thinking like, okay, I have 2 months or I have 6 weeks or I have a month now until training camp. It's just, okay, what do I have to do today? I need to do this lift. I need to do this conditioning, whatever. I just have to do my best at that and just keep getting better. So I'm at my best for when training camp comes along. So fortunately I have a coach who can, look ahead for me like that. But for me, it's just day to day right now, getting better every day.
Yeah, it seems like that's basically all you can do at this point with everybody not having all the answers. So it's good to hear that you're taking those steps as well. Lastly, Beniamino Meats, a premium line of meats from Niagara Sausage, custom curing available. Email beniaminomeats@gmail.com or visit them at Beniamino Meats on Instagram. # Niagara's Finest Pig and # You Bring the Bread. Now, Harry, last question. I knew I was going to get you into some fun stuff at the end. I promised it to you. So, being able to be a fan once again, what are you thinking about your New York Football Giants going into the 2020 season? What excites you about some of the young talent like Daniel Jones at quarterback and generational running back talent, Saquon Barkley, for what seems to be the start of a new era of Giants football with the now retired Eli Manning, who helped win those 2 Super Bowls throughout this last decade or so?
Yeah, I'm excited. We're getting younger, which is good. We got a lot of kids out there. Kids, they're like younger than me, but we got some kids out there. We got some young guys on defense, which is exciting. So I like what we're doing. We just signed some free agents for a little bit more money than I'd probably like, but getting some bigger names in there on defense is always good. So I'm excited for my boys.
Yeah, are you expecting much more or much better than a 4-12 season this year?
Absolutely, yeah. For
and
sure.
Do you think it was time for Eli to retire? I know they drafted Daniel Jones last year, got a lot of flack for drafting him very high, but it seems like he's the guy that they wanted to mold into that. And how do you think Eli, through the retirement, everything like that, how do you think he handled being put on the bench for Daniel Jones and mentoring him in that scenario? And how do you think Daniel Jones what he will take from Eli Manning as the class act, the man of the year, and great mentor that he was for him?
Yeah, everything I heard was that Eli was a pro's pro, just the best guy to have as to be in that situation. A starter getting benched for a young rookie. And that's right on par for Eli Manning. He's my idol, both as a football player, because he was phenomenal. Guy ripped it up, won 2 Super Bowls. You can't tell me Eli Manning's bad at football. I won't have it. But both as a football player and as a person, he's my idol. So, great guy, handled everything with class. I thought he was going to retire after last year. Kind of surprised me when he came back, but it's tough to see him go because I'll never see him play football again. But it's great to see him go out on his terms and allow him to move on with his life after an awesome career.
At least he won you 2 Super Bowls. I wish I could say the same about my team, but
exactly, yeah, that's something we'll always have.
Exactly. And based off that, do you think he's a Hall of Famer by the 2 Super Bowl victories? I know he's had subpar 500 record through most of his other years, but do you think those 2 Super Bowl wins against some very good New England Patriot teams, do you think that solidifies his place and his gold jacket?
Hell yes. 2 Super Bowl rings. I think all of his stats, he's top 6 all time. And one stat I heard when he retired, I didn't even know the stat, but with their second Super Bowl run, he had the most passing yards in a single playoffs in history, which is crazy. He threw for like 1,200 yards or something, and that was the most of any quarterback in any playoff run, which is insane. So yeah, he's a Hall of Famer.
And last question for you here is who are some of your favorite New York Giant players? Obviously Eli Manning, or maybe somebody outside of the New York Giants organization, a wide receiver that you looked up to or tried to mold your game around. Is there a couple players that stand out to you as influences within your football career?
Yeah, Eli Manning was always my guy. There's a couple other players. I really liked Tiki Barber as a player, not so much as a person. But there's a lot of receivers I like to watch. I like Adam Thielen. All time, probably AJ Green. is my favorite receiver.
Shoutouts to our buddy Chico Nation from The Score. Who day? I'm sure he's going to love that answer.
That's right. I know they tagged him, but that doesn't mean he wants to play under a tag, So I think he's still in play for the Giants, which would be phenomenal. But he's another guy. I can relate to him a lot. He's pretty quiet. I don't think anyone knows what AJ Green's voice really sounds like. But he's a tall receiver, and he just quietly makes plays. So I like him a lot.
Nobody else that you emulated growing up?
Yeah, like Tiki Barber was really my guy.
Okay.
Because he was a phenomenal running back for the Giants. I have a Tiki Barber jersey still, but I know people are going to be like, what, you don't like Odell Beckham? He's not your favorite receiver? But I don't know, he just has a different style, and I can't really relate to him too much. So
I'm going to say Megatron, because, everybody loves Megatron going up and getting those balls. You've made a few catches like that in your OUA career, and hopefully with the CFL here, I can see some Megatron-esque catches to come for sure for Harry.
Yeah, you're right. Calvin Johnson, phenomenal. Love him too, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Retired too early, but it is what it is. His legacy will go on with Harry one day. I don't know. But Harry, that's basically it I got for questions for the interview. You got any questions for me?
Oh man, I was actually thinking about this. I was gonna have it prepared too, but I don't for it this time. I'm sorry.
It's all right. When we have you back on for just one of our straight to the extra point football episodes, and it's not your interview spotlight, you can ask me some questions. How about that?
Okay, you got it.
Okay. So that's going to wrap it up, guys, for the first installment of today's Niagara Athlete Spotlight right here on the Armchair GM Sports Network, your source for North American sports coverage by sports fans for sports fans, delivered to you right here from the Niagara region. As always, I'm one of your hosts of this podcast, Cappy. You can follow me on Twitter, @Kapoots13 with the Canadian Z, and all the links how you can follow us will be in the description below of this video on whatever platform you're listening to us right now. And a big, big thank you to our special guest, Harry McMaster, Niagara Falls native, former St. Paul Patriot, Western Mustang, Vanier Cup champion, now CFL player for the Edmonton Eskimos. And I must say, as a biased fan in me, I couldn't have picked a better team for you to go to than the Edmonton Eskimos, as I didn't have to buy any extra Eskimos gear. I already had it, as I was a fan previous. They were my CFL team before you were even drafted to them, so I already had the jacket. I had the toque. I have everything ready to go, so I just need you to sign my Eskimos mini helmet, and I'll be ready to go.
Okay, you got it, Coach.
But Harry, thanks so much for joining us on this episode. Appreciate it, buddy, and always great talking to you, and glad we were able to showcase your football life that I'm sure the documentary will be up on the NFL Network very soon to come.
I'm honored to be the first in the series. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so first one on the series for Harry McMaster, and more of these to come. I've already got a few other guests lined up, but there can only be one person that goes first, and I'm honored that it's my good longtime friend Harry McMaster. So thank you to all of our great sponsors who help put us on and support the network, keep the show on the air, and finally to you viewers out there for tuning in and listening along with us for this great interview. And this has been the Niagara Athlete Spotlight on the Armchair GM Sports Network by sports fans for sports fans. We'll see you next time.